most amazing success comes from body brilliance, not the mind. A dysregulated CEO is a depleted CEO in her energy, her clarity, and her cash flow. And most women never realize that they're dysregulated until their body forces a reset. And I had to stop eating for 85 hours to see how far I had drifted. Welcome to the Frequency of Yes, the podcast for women leaders creating limitless success, deep empowerment, and divine wealth on their terms. I'm Kirsten Carey, and I'm obsessed with helping badass women feel good in their bodies so they can sustain wildly successful businesses without grinding or sacrificing themselves. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what an 85-hour water fast reminded me about being a fully resourced CEO. And this episode isn't really about fasting. It's about remembering what it means to be fully resourced and what happens when we're not. So it's been exactly 4 days since I broke an 85-hour water fast. I've done several longer and much shorter fasts in the past, and they all have their unique moments of challenge and wisdom. And this one did not disappoint. And like most of the choices that I make that are brilliant for my business or my health, the fast wasn't planned. But one morning last week when I woke up, I was like, oh gosh. And my body was making it clear that I needed a reset. So I jumped into a fast. And admittedly, it was overdue. I had been sliding into old patterns of just push a little bit more, do a little bit more, and forget yourself. And I was sliding into some of these addictions that didn't serve me. Addictions like spending more time on social media because I was just trying to numb and avoid. I was eating ice cream that was dairy-free and super clean, but still it was ice cream on almost every single night. And I was doing chocolate every day. I mean, it was just one piece, right? And the one piece became two, and two became three. And those little slidings, they open gates to me just doing a few more minutes longer of work or one more hour of this. And the next thing I know, one more hour became 2 more hours and 3 more hours. And when these slides began, they created more sliding. And then I found myself moving things off my calendar or skipping things that were really important to me, like working out or playing with the dogs or the somatic release experiences that I was doing daily that suddenly I wasn't doing daily anymore that helped me sustain long-term health and business growth. I was doing these things so I could jam one more creation of one more piece of social media content into a pile of content that I already had. And then I started realizing that's why I had gone too far. And here's where I'm going to invite you to check in with yourself, because these patterns don't start with the chocolate or the skipping of the gym. They actually start long ago with an old belief. And for me, that belief was that I had to produce in order to be loved. And I know I'm not the only one. And this is how burnout sneaks in. It comes in quietly, it comes in gradually, and it's almost invisible. And this is where so many high achieving women get thrown off course. And it's not because we don't know better. It's because our nervous system still has an inkling of a belief somewhere at some level that overworking is going to keep us safer. And I call these addictions because they function like addictions. They temporarily soothe an overwhelmed nervous system that's just trying to escape from the overload. And then they light up centers of the brain that give momentary release of endorphins. And I mean, please, it feels good to see a dozen pre-created social media posts all lined up, waiting to go out, waving at you. Because they're tangible. You can prove you accomplished something today. And for business owners like me, we sell the intangible a lot of the time. And when you can create tangibility, when you feel like you're living in a world of intangibility, that feels so good. But the side effects to that kind of behavior, they're not good. And that's when the body starts craving more and more and more of it to get that same level of dopamine release. So couple this. Take these little slides over time with hormone fluctuations of perimenopause that start for many of us in our 30s, and wham, my body was like, no more. And for some of you, I know you've already had the thought that 85 hours without food sounds insane. but it's not as wild as it may sound. So let me ground this down for you and let's make it more practical so you kind of have an understanding of what the experience is like. So my experience as a natural health practitioner taught me lots of things. One of them was how to safely do a longer fast like this. And I've guided many of our clients through it. The benefits of fasting are astounding. Studies show that fasts, even shorter ones, like 12 hours, which is super easy because you're basically sleeping through most of the 12 hours, it helps with hormone balance. It helps repair damaged cells. It resets the immune system at one point. And then it kicks the body into fat burning, even for people with metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance. And it can even stop cancer cells from reproducing. So fast can help people in a myriad of ways, depending on how you approach them and what you do about them. They also help shift people out of the fight or flight mode into parasympathetic mode by downregulating the nervous system so it doesn't think it's in danger. And then it cuts off that need to be in that hyperdrive all the time. Now, I have two besties, and actually, I'm staying with one of them right now, which is why you see this unique background behind me that I haven't used before. But my two besties and I, we are in a constant three-way text thread all the time. Sometimes we're actively texting and there's like 50 texts that go through. And sometimes we'll go weeks without one single word. And they're the best kind of friends, the ones that you just pick up with wherever you left off, like nothing's changed no matter how much time has passed. Well, yesterday, or actually a couple of days ago, one of them had texted that she was exhausted and had just gotten her period after a stretch of 5 months without it. And so she was annoyed. She was relieved. She was all of the things, right? When you're going through menopause and perimenopause, you're all of the things sometimes. And the other friend commented back that perhaps part of her exhaustion was also because she had just driven 6 hours one way back from visiting one of her kids at college. She had also done 2 work trips on planes that week. And she had just the night before hosted and cooked for a dinner for an event at her house for a bunch of other people. So the friend that had just done all of these things replies back to that with a classic response that I hear from most high-powered women. I'm pretty sure I've probably said things like this too. But she was like, well, it could be the reason I'm tired, but that schedule is not totally unusual for me. Now, I know some of you are hearing it. That schedule isn't totally unusual for me. She was rejecting the idea that she could possibly be tired because this is her norm. So I replied back and said, well, just because it's not unusual doesn't mean it wasn't exhausting. And a minute went by and she responded with a heart emoji. And I know she heard all the love that I had when I said it, but she heard it. And so that routine of pushing, the old habits sliding in, this is what so many of us were trained to believe we needed to do. And then we associate it with how we reach the success we have now. So we don't want to let go of it. And I'm here to let you know that there is another way to do this, one that actually works with our bodies. It synchronizes alongside of the way our body was designed to work. And anything that helps our body will absolutely support our businesses. So during this most recent fast that I just went through, like magic, right at the 24-hour mark, everything kind of started shifting for me. And I noticed that my breathing had slowed and it had deepened. And that frenzy that was in my brain that I didn't realize was there had stopped. That nagging feeling that there was something missing, like I was supposed to be doing something other than what I was doing in that moment. And then when I would shift to something else, I thought, well, maybe I should have been doing that other thing. Like that back and forth, that stopped. And the next morning after that, so now I was starting to come into the second day. The next morning when I woke up, I was feeling emotionally lighter. I was clearer. And since it was one of my regular gym days, and I promised myself that I was going to continue doing my regular routine until I didn't feel like doing that routine anymore, I went to the gym. And I let myself know that whatever exercise felt good. I was going to keep doing it. And if it didn't, I was going to stop. And I wasn't going to push myself, and I wasn't going to judge myself, and I wasn't going to make myself do the routine because I was there. I was going to do whatever worked, even if whatever worked was stretching, lying on the floor at a few moments, and then going to the massage chairs. But to my surprise, I went through my entire workout, the whole typical workout, the way I usually do with no changes, but I didn't push myself at any point. And I went one set at a time, one rep at a time, checking in with myself every time, asking myself, do I want to do another one? And when I did, I did. And it was amazing. And the rest of the day, I felt clear. And I noticed that my breathing was even deeper and slower. It was almost euphoric. And then I got everything on my to-do list finished way faster than I typically do. And I hung with the dogs outside in the sun on the front porch, and I could feel things melting in me, and I could feel them melting off of me. My shoulders were actually lower down my back. My tongue wasn't shoved to the roof of my mouth. Check yourself right now. Is your tongue pushed to the top of your mouth? Yeah, you probably didn't even realize it, right? Let it go. I also noticed how I wasn't stuck on what I needed to do next. And I didn't have to look at a to-do list to know what to do next. And I had not realized how many physical warning signs had crept back into my body. So I kept the fast going. And every hour I felt clearer. I was more settled. I was more grounded. That didn't mean I didn't have my moments. There were moments, but they were passing and they were gone quickly. I mean, I really had needed this. And though I'm still integrating back into a more regular eating routine, I mean, for the most part, I'm back to eating regularly as far as the amount of foods and things like that. But I shifted in how I was looking at food again. And I wasn't going at it because I had to eat or because I was trying to stuff something down. I'm making choices again with food where we're collaborating together. And I'm making choices about everything, like I'm collaborating with everything, not like I have to do this. And it's just so obvious how much I needed this reset energetically. And I can feel the regulation running through me. It's like a little buzzing. And there's no voice in the back of my head telling me to get it done faster, even when there's no reason to rush through. I always felt like there was a clock behind me towards the last couple weeks before I did this. Answers are coming more clearly to me. My attachment to my phone has gone away. In fact, I don't even know where it is right now. So this is having a ripple effect on the rest of my life. It's having impact on my business. It's how I'm looking at my schedule. It's how I even did this podcast this time. I didn't prep the way that I usually do. And I feel like I'm more fluid in it right now. Maybe you notice a difference, maybe you don't, but I feel it. And it's having a very direct connection with how I feel about connecting with myself. And the reason I'm telling you all of this and the reason I decided to do the podcast on it this week is because even if you feel like your schedule hasn't changed, that doesn't mean it's supporting your highest frequency. And just because you're used to handling things at the level and you're taking all of the things on and that's how you've always been, perhaps you've slipped into some old patterns or beliefs that have snuck in as well, or maybe it's just no longer supporting you the way that you need it to. And if your body is communicating that you need support, then you need to support it. You need to do it now, not after the holiday, not after you get that project done, not after your body breaks, but now, while you still have the choice and the choice isn't being made for you. And I'm not suggesting that the choice is a water fast. What I'm saying is your body is asking for help, and the choice is to do something about it and not push it off one more minute. Because every successful female founder or CEO has a button that when it's activated, it causes her to go into overdrive. But this button was only meant to be used on special occasions. And when it's used frequently or it's constantly in the on position, it will cause dysregulation in the body, which breaks the lines of communication and directly impacts your company's success. Now, I know how frightening it can feel to loosen the grip and to slow down, because slowdown often triggers danger for many of us. And if we're not busy, then we're lazy or we're bored or we feel like we're failing. And if you feel that way, it is a great sign that you're dysregulated. And a reset is exactly what your body's asking for. Women leaders lead best when they are regulated and fully resourced. They sleep better, they absorb nutrients better, and they process thoughts better. It's because they shift away from survival mode of figuring out all up in their mind. And they relax into trusting their somatic intelligence, which is where the real answers actually come from. I mean, imagine making decisions with clarity and without the voice that second guesses that decision. How much would that change in a day? And if it changes something each day, imagine how much it's going to change in the month and the year. What if you wake up every morning with lightness in your belly, and openness in your heart, and freedom in your soul? When was the last time you felt that way? We are entering a shift in business right now where clarity, grounding, and nervous system regulation will determine which businesses are thriving and which ones are fading out. And it will matter more than the economy, more than AI, and even more than the political climate. Regulation is the real differentiator. Most women never even notice a dysregulation until their body is already overwhelmed. So let me give you the signs that you can start watching for before you slip right past them. There are 5 clear signs that your system is calling out for a reset, because most women don't notice these until they're already that frog that's boiling away in the pot of water because they never notice the temperature creeping up on them. So sign number 1, you're sliding into old patterns. If you hear yourself saying things like, I'll start next week, or it's just fine this once, you're already in the drift. And then 1 time becomes 3 and 9 and 20. And this will show up in things like food choices, or how you spend money, the amount of screen time that you're allowing yourself to have, your sleep patterns, or how you interact with the people that you care about. A common thing that I hear from women that have already slid in pretty hard into the drift is, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I mean, have you ever done that where you kind of catch yourself in the mirror and you think, who is that? When you don't recognize yourself physically, you don't recognize yourself emotionally, you're wondering who took your body and exchanged it out. That's a big sign you've slid into patterns that are not serving you. Sign number 2, you're not feeling right. I mean, you're not feeling wrong, but you just know you're not feeling right. And if you're carrying more weight, or you're unable to sleep soundly, or you're achy and stiff, or you're snapping at people, or your inner critic is all up in your business and getting louder and meaner. When the critic gets mean, she says awful things. Things like, you aren't special, or other people are much better at this than you. Why do you bother? Or your success so far has been a fluke. And when the mind hears a lie like that over and over, it starts to become true. And then your body starts acting like it's true. And then it's really hard to come out of that spiral until you set yourself into a reset. Sign number 3, you're stuck, you're anxious, you're foggy. You're bouncing from task to task without finishing anything, but not sure which one's more important, feeling like everything's important, but not enough of things are important enough to figure out which one comes in which order. Or you're feeling rushed when there's nothing urgent. Or you can't make choices, you can't focus, you can't land on anything. Or you catch yourself constantly checking your phone. Or you walk into a room and you're like, why did I come in here? Your brain is on overload. And a lot of us will dismiss that. Oh, that's what happens when you get older. Oh, ha ha, menopause brain. But it's not funny. It's the system trying to say, I can't find a way to get clarity and to land on something. It's dysregulation that's masquerading as a productivity problem. And it's not good. Sign number 4, you're clinging to control like it's keeping you from drowning. And if you lose it over like the dishwasher being loaded wrong, or if you silently or not so silently curse ChatGPT for continuing to use M dashes, even though you've set up all of the prompts telling it to avoid using M dashes, or you question your team's competence, and then you convince yourself that you're the only one that can handle anything correctly, you're clinging to control. Clinging to control is what your nervous system does when it feels unsafe, even if nothing dangerous is happening. Control isn't a good thing. It's an illusion. And we think we have control over all of the things and we'll be safe only when that happens. That's another lie that we've slipped into. Sign number 5, you're disempowered, or you're using excuses to justify the experience that you're having. So when things start sliding, you blame ADD. You start telling yourself it's your hormones. You wonder why you're just too old and maybe you're just not cut out for this anymore. These Explanations feel true in the moment, but they're often just your nervous system asking for help in the only way, in the only language it knows how. Once the system starts shifting to this disempowered state and you hand over your power over to ADD or over to our hormones, it goes deeper into survival mode because now you've used something else to be the reason that you're sliding. And it starts shutting down your ability to function effectively. Awareness is the key here. And this is when this is why this is a business conversation, because your nervous system isn't just your body, it's your company. It's the heart of your company. And when women leaders are on their game, they're regulated, they're amazing. They're brilliant. Their inner critic is quiet. Their bodies feel like their own, and they make decisions quickly and easily and somatically. The answer comes from their source inside of them. You stop trying to figure it out and you drop into your body and you get the answers. And when you're regulated, your leadership expands. You start delegating effectively. You're communicating more clearly. You trust your team instead of trying to micromanage them. And you stop second guessing every decision because your body is giving you clear signals instead of mixed messages. But when you're dysregulated, your leadership contracts. You start gripping onto things. I mean, think about it coming in. You're gripping, you're holding, you're doing tasks that were meant to be delegated to others. You're falling back into old habits of working too much, putting too much in for too little result. And you're doing that because you're trying to compensate for the discomfort that you're getting from your body. And when you question your decisions or your team or yourself, that slides you even further. Not because anything is wrong, but because your dysregulation is skewing your perception. And regulated CEOs, they raise their teams up. They attract premium clients, and their companies breathe deeply and abundantly. Think about your company as a living, breathing thing. It needs that regulation as well, and that regulation is coming from you. So when you're dysregulated, your company will be dysregulated, and it will have impact on all of your team members, all of your clients, and your ability to market effectively. When we're regulated, we're grounded, which means we feel safe, and so does the company and everything attached to it. And regulated CEOs are moving through each moment with clarity that feels freeing and spacious. It feels free and open in your chest and your throat, and your ribs are going to expand fully and they exhale completely. Regulation doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how your business performs. Revenue flows because you're flowing. Clients show up because you're coherent. Decisions become easier because your system is harmonized for the frequency of yes. Even a tiny dysregulation, 1 or 2%, compounds over time, and your business feels that drift way before you're noticing it. Like if you're on a flight and the captain changes course even by 1%, you can end up hundreds of miles from your destination. And this is why I do periodic resets to get back on course. They're not there to punish myself, but to come home to myself, to get back into a rhythm with the business that I'm leading. And resets are intentional pattern disruptors. They're meant to get me back to me. The Waterfest is a great example of that. They're not vacations or getaways, which are typically only there for a temporary escape. If we're really being honest, they're not there for true restoration. These pattern disruptors need to be purposeful. They're realignments. They're reminders of who you are and the why behind everything that you do. And I'm not suggesting that it needs to be 4 days without food for you. The resets can be absolutely much simpler than that. Though sometimes the little resets aren't enough and a full reset is needed. But they could be as simple as a new daily pattern that, when done with the correct strategy, will help you reset so that you can do less and get more accomplished. Now, how would that feel to get more done with less effort? The reset could be a new tool to repattern a belief that's set deep in your psyche that's keeping you in this overdrive space. And I use these tools with my clients too, especially when they're not ready for a more in-depth option. But these tools are there to create a new layer of safety and to establish that safety in the nervous system as a baseline, which then creates more stability and success. And when they create space for excitement, they create creativity, they create brilliance that have all been stuck because your system is no longer spending its time on the danger that it feels from being in routine overload. I also use the smaller resets as tools to create long-term success so that the gains that you make in a bigger reset are integrated and they stick. Because I see this all the time where people do these giant effort resets. Like they do a big retreat or they go and do a fast like I've just done. But that they have no strategy on how to integrate the benefits that they've received. And then they go right back to the way things were in their choices and their behaviors and their patterns that created the need for the reset in the first place. So doing one of these resets without integration that's purposeful and intentional, it's not an effective way to do it. And this is exactly why I support women through these resets, because you can't see this clearly when you're in it. And when you have a proven process on how to strategically reintegrate the benefits for maximum sustainability, this is when you win at a much higher level. And you don't have to do it alone. In fact, it's beneficial when you don't, because your system wasn't designed to carry this much without the right support. And if your body has been whispering, tugging, or just outright freaking yelling at you that something is off, please don't wait for that crash. I have done that. I've done it. And hopefully, I'm never doing it like that again. It's not worth it. Your body is already telling you what it needs. The question is whether you're willing to listen and take action. Now, if you're ready to course correct so that you not only hit your targets this year and all of 2026, but you do it with less effort and more confidence in the journey, so you get this long-term benefit, then I think we should talk. There's a link in my calendar that's going to be to my calendar that's going to be in the show notes. During this conversation, we're going to talk about your goals, your current situation, and what it would look like to reset your system so that your business excels without sacrificing yourself in the process. And while you're still here, look, do me a favor. Subscribe to this podcast, and do me a second favor. If you know another amazing, badass woman who would benefit by being fully resourced too, please share this episode with her. The more women we have that are resonating at their highest frequency, the easier it's going to be for all of us to rise and vibrate at that level too. All right, deep breath. I'll see you next time.